Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining for a very exciting episode 12 of Marketing for E-commerce Brands. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Nash of Nash Photography, and she's a senior photographer and director of over 17 years who's worked for global brands, fashion, and outside of that industry as well, such as Net-a-Porter, ASOS, and many other big names. And now she has her lens focused in on maternity, motherhood, and newborn photo shoots. Is there anything I missed there, Ella, or should we just dive right into your audit today?
No, that was a beautiful introduction. Thank you very much. And I think we should just dive straight in. Thanks, Gracie.
All right, awesome. So for anybody listening in, Ella and I were having a discussion about her conversions and her bookings through her Instagram and her social media. So we've done a deep dive audit for her, and that's what we're going to be going through today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. So let's get into it. Something that I found that was really interesting in the beginning that I see happen with a lot of people is originally when we decided to do this audit, the first step is getting the access to the dashboard. And Ella was super quick in getting the access to the Instagram dashboard, but what we found out was that her Facebook login, she had an old email that needed to be updated, and we also needed to get access for me into the Meta dashboard, because the dashboards that we see on Instagram and the dashboards that we see on Facebook are a little bit different in terms of functionalities and the amount of data they can give you. So I think the number one start off point here is just if we're going to work together, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or wherever it is, make sure that your account in the tech aspect, because I see this happen a lot with people where maybe their Pixel ID isn't set up or something like that. So that was kind of a two birds, one stone that Ella and I were able to do. So we were able to update that email so she wouldn't be able to get locked out in the future.
I was super grateful for that because actually I had no idea that my old Facebook from when I was in my 20s was still working with my work Instagram account. And I had no idea there was data to be seen through the Facebook. And so I was super grateful for Gracie bringing that up and bringing it to my attention.
Yes, and we will get into that in terms of what the difference is. Just a great point, because I notice this happens every time I onboard a client. So good practice gets everything ironed out. So let's get into it. First glance on your Instagram. So we really focused on Instagram right now for the audit, but then we looked a little bit at Facebook and LinkedIn going into that. So right off the bat, looking at your Instagram profile, here are some wins that I see. Your bio is very clear. It states who you are, it states what you do and where you do it. You have clear links, which link directly to your website and your Gaza prints, which is a promotion you're doing right now. Obviously, because you are a photographer, you have consistent quality content, which is you can't fake that. So that's a massive win. Also, I noticed your top performers are pinned, which is brilliant. That's how you want it. And your third pin is a get to know me, which is great for anybody who's looking into your services, who's new or doesn't know you. So that's brilliant. The opportunities that I see without even looking at the data is your copywriting on all of your captions is beautiful. It's emotional. It connects to your audience. It's deep. It's not just fluff, right? I would say apply that emotional copywriting a little bit to your bios. While it's very clear saying capturing life one mama at a time, I wonder if we can shift that to be a little bit more emotional, because I've seen in your copy sometimes in the captions, it's a lot more deep. Of what problem are you solving for these mamas? Are you giving them a feeling? I guess that's if we can come up with a one-liner that essentially says what you do, but in a more emotional way, I feel like that could make your bio a little bit stronger.
Thank you, that's a great idea.
The copyright mention is perfect, and again, the captions connect with the audience emotionally in a very resonant way. So applying that to your bio, brilliant. The next thing is the highlights, just adding consistent cover photos. You can make these in Canva or anything, and super simple. I know you know what that is. It just gives it a little bit more of a branded feel to it. Another link that I would add is a book, like a link to book or a link to contact you, because I would imagine if somebody's ready to search for or book a web photo, they're going to either have the date in mind, they've already considered you, and they're just going to go ahead and click book. right?
Yeah, because I have a link to my website, which obviously has the booking form on it, but you think it would be better to have an actual direct link straight into that
So
page.
you have your website, perfect. Leave your website as is, leave your Gaza prints as is, and then underneath that, yes, add your booking form and
Yes.
your contact form. Because if I was a woman or a man looking for photography, either I already know what day I want to book and I already know, then you want to give them that direct link to book, or I'm going to want to reach out and ask you questions, which is usually one way or the other, right? And they can obviously slide into your DMs. But just adding those two links will be super easy, and we'll go into that later. Then I wanted to pick your brain on your logo because I wanted to understand where you got this logo from, how married you are to it, where are you at with that? Are you a personal brand? Are you want to be a business brand? Because I think what I'm looking at now, I love the photo. Obviously, as a photographer, you have a choice to either have your logo be your photography or have a branded logo. There's no
Yeah.
right or wrong here. It's what you prefer. The only thing that stands out to me on this one is that the font is a little too small because it's going to be on mobile. So what's the backstory on that?
The backstory is that's the first photo I ever took in the field of intimate motherhood, family, newborn photography. It's my daughter. We were on a holiday in Sicily, and it was the first time I had re-picked up my camera after the birth of my second daughter. So it was a nostalgic image to me, but I'm not married to it. It was just, it was my first one. I put my name on it, and there we go. I'm happy for it to be something else. It could be a portrait of me. I probably need to have better branding.
So that's something we'll go into. I just wanted to understand the backside. And this is something I just went through with my agency, where for the last year, I led with my personal brand. I led with my face because we know psychologically people, they resonate better with faces. However, from a brand side of point, sometimes it solidifies it a little bit more to have a logo. So it's really up to you. However, I do see a positive to using your photography in the logo. So thinking about that, whether or not how you envision that branding going when you kind of rebrand and level up, because the digital footprint is one of the actionable insights that we found in this. Looking at your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and your Instagram, and assuming everything has the same logo, the same bio adapted to the platform, and essentially the same timeline photo. You just want to make sure everything aligns, because right now when you look at your Facebook, there's a little bit of fashion stuff on there as well. LinkedIn as well, the branding is a little bit older. So that's a definite win, and I think that's a bigger conversation we can pick up later in terms of what you want your logo and your branding to look
I'm
like.
also glad that you mentioned my LinkedIn because I haven't used that since I was working in studios in my 20s. So that probably needs revisiting.
Definitely. And I guarantee you can find some of your audience on LinkedIn. Okay, so let's go into the data now. So I dug into the past 30 days, the past 90 days, as well as the past year and the past 2 years. So what this data will be for you going forward is really a benchmark. Because we don't have much more data than we're given within Instagram and Meta, it's a little bit more limited. And that's one of the things is I'm going to recommend a scheduling platform for you that will be able to centralize everything and give you a little bit more deep dive data. But your average views for the past 30 days were 26.6 thousand, which is brilliant. You have 874 interactions and 67 new followers. You're currently at 5,863, which is a good place to know. Your top 3 performing posts, you had a post on Thursday of May 8th, the robe you thought you'd wear, which all of these click through to the post itself, so you can see the full caption, you can see all of the engagement and the hashtags used. The reason I did that is when you're going forward and you're repurposing content or you're planning your content and you know your top winners, this is going to be your North Star, this deck. You can click in and say, okay, what hashtags did I use that were an ultimate winner? Brilliant. We'll put those in the comments.
Can I ask a quick question about hashtags? I use the same hashtags every time because that's my audience. But I remember when we crossed paths at Silk Thread way back when, I remember you guys were always using different hashtags every time you posted. And I remember hearing that in the studio. Does that actually work?
Yes, the platform Instagram specifically picks up the same hashtags over and over. They pick it up as spam. So that is why you want to move the hashtags. However, this is great because one of the first points that I noticed in this is that hashtags are really no longer relevant on Instagram anymore. So we
Really?
can nope, they've removed them and they've shifted the SEO guidelines. Essentially, hashtags are SEO. What they've done now is that they've made the platform so it scans your caption, just like it would do on Twitter. Words can pop up as hashtags. So when you're writing your captions, if you have any words that are in there, you don't have to put those words in the hashtag. So if I'm writing about a digital marketing audit and I say digital marketing audit in my caption, I don't have to put those words in the hashtags. You don't even have to use hashtags anymore if you don't want to, although I still advise using them for the words you cannot cover in your caption.
I was about to say, I don't think I could say all these things in a post.
Exactly. And you don't have to. It's more just like if it works, you can include it in the caption, and then if it doesn't, you're going to move those hashtags into the comment section. That's something that you did on one of your winning posts, and we'll see it in here, where I noticed that you put the hashtags in the comment section, which is brilliant because I still do the same, even though I don't have to use hashtags. But if there are words that I can't get in my caption, I'm going to add them to the hashtag.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I actually used to always do that because I didn't like the look of having the hashtags in the caption, because it's like I was writing something emotional and then I was putting a load of hashtags in. But then I saw a load of fellow photographers who were putting them in their captions and their posts were doing really well, so I went back to doing it. So I will take note of that and put them back in my comments again.
Put them back in your comments, change them up so they're not the exact same in there, but I'm going to suggest you making a copy sheet. We'll go back to the end where you can kind of house your winning hashtags, the main hashtags that you use, and then alternate those to coincide with the photo or the reel that's going up.
Amazing.
So let's just take a quick look at the post itself. This content, this caption is very light. We have some killer hashtags there. We've already mentioned move hashtags and consider new SEO guidelines. Okay, so for the second one, again, killer caption. It's emotional, it's relatable for mothers. The only thing that I would say that I see common in your captions is the spacing. This is a lot of words to read within a small amount of space. And I can imagine if you just break up that copy a little bit, it might be a little bit easier to read for the viewer. This is just something I keep in mind. Same with this deck, not too many words, but I've made it easier to read. And looking at the third top one in the past 30 days, again, a gorgeous short caption here, the physicalities of motherhood. The only thing that I would recommend is there definitely needs to be some reflection on coinciding with the brand logo and who you want your brand to be, is more mentioning of your mission and why you do what you do, because it's obvious that it's very close to your heart, you're passionate about it, and you're very good at it. So you can mix in some more CTAs. Like, you don't always have to have a CTA. It's fine not to, but you can.
And the CTA, for those who don't know?
So a call to action would be like
action. Thank you. Just needed it.
Yeah. Call to action is anything that's asking the viewer to do something. So I've seen your call to actions a lot in your Gaza prints. It will go towards the charity. So more call to actions, you can mix them in a little bit. Maybe one call to action, two call to actions out of every 5 posts. Test it out. You don't have to have call to actions. Sometimes it's better not to have them, but you can definitely add them in some posts if you're trying to say, subscribe to my email, or go book my website, or I'm offering buy one photo shoot, get one half off for this year. Anything like that, adding the CTAs and more mentions of why you are doing this, why you love it, what's your mission as this photography business. Before I go on into the next one, I'll just note, it's good to note we see a post and 2 carousels that are working for you. Thursday, Tuesday, and Monday are the winning days here.
Say that again. Thursday, Tuesday, Monday.
Thursday, Tuesday, and Monday. Monday surprised me, if I'm honest, because I always think Monday.
That's because all parents are relieved on a Monday.
There we go. So this is what it comes down to, knowing your audience. So Thursday, Tuesday, and Monday is a winning, and then we'll go through in here, and there's Tuesday and Thursday seems to be a consistent winning day for you. Tuesday, in fact, is
Mm.
in almost every single winning post. We have the occasional Monday, Sunday, and Friday mixed in with another Sunday, which was Mother's Day, which makes sense. So I think Tuesday and Thursday is to note. Friday and Monday is to note. I'm surprised I'm not seeing any Wednesdays in here because I've always seen Wednesday as the highest performer. So I'm curious if you ever post on Wednesdays, or do you never post on Wednesdays, or is it
I
kind of
do. I have done in the past, but I have also noticed it's a dead day. Wednesday is one of my work days when my children are in childcare. I have often in the past posted on Wednesday because I've got the time, but it's dead.
okay, very interesting. So then that kind of seals the deal then. So I think Tuesday and Thursday are your highest performing days, with Monday and Friday close behind. Good to know. Also, a great feature in Meta, which we can get deeper into, is that they actually have, if you go into the Meta interface, there's a planner that will break down, will say, hey, this week, these are the best times to post. And it will actually give
Really?
based on data. But yes, if you go into Meta, which I'll show you where to find that information, it will measure from the past 7 days and give you an updated time to post for the week ahead. So that's a great tool. But again, I'm going to recommend Buffer to you as a scheduler tool, and they will give you even better insights for the month rather than the week. So, okay, so that's the past 30 days. Brilliant. Let's look at the past 90 days, because you killed it in the past 90 days. You had 193,000 views, you had 6.7 thousand interactions, and you had almost 6,000 new followers, which is amazing. Your top post was a reel, interestingly enough, because we've seen posting carousels do quite well for you, but a reel did win, which was the Mother's Day giveaway. Makes complete sense to me. It's beautiful branding. I mean, the photos killing it. The only thing that I thought, what could have done better, is that this could have been a trending sound opportunity. And the music is great, but the question is whether or not, if it was using a better trending sound, like Pretty Little Baby, we have all these trending sounds, that could have been an extra reach, extra win, but that's something you can test
Can you
out.
explain how trending audio actually helps? Because I personally dislike it very much. And I could be converted into using it if it would help me gain more business, but I also feel like it detracts from the photography. So I'm at a little bit of I'm grating in that
That's
area.
fair. That's fair. And again, this is just something that could be tested. So if you don't want to use trending sounds, but trending sounds are kind of like hashtags, right? So when you're using a trending sound, it goes more into the algorithm. More people see it because it's trending. So that is where the gain is. However, I understand what you're saying. You don't want to be too generic as well. You don't want to use a sound that doesn't work. So if you're creating a piece of content and you feel like the trending sounds that are being suggested to you within, there's Instagram tools, or I would recommend, even whenever you're scrolling, saving trending sounds that you feel like actually align with your brand. I'm not suggesting you use a trending sound just to use a trending sound, only if it makes sense and actually fits. If you feel like that trending sound belittles your brand or takes away from the content, of course, do not use it. It's not going to win. But if it's a trending song, like, again, Pretty Little Baby, or I forgot this was the whole point of life, that's a trending sound right now. That's a trending song that would make sense for your brand. So that just expands reach a little bit and gets more eyes on it. So that's that. And then again, on this one, this was the second performer for the past 90 days. We have Katie and Teddy in the garden. I think great mentions and tags here. That's crazy because for some reason the tags weren't showing up for me on mobile, but they are showing up here. That is another way that you are just going to automatically see more reach. And I don't believe this one had paid behind it. So I think what you're seeing here is, because you're tagging people such as Canon UK, you're going to get a lot more exposure. So that's something to just keep in mind, that whenever you tag large accounts like that, it does get your photography more reach. You have location on, so that's something that you can also test around with, where location is ideal with your niche audience, but if you ever want to expand out of that, obviously change the locations. This is a good one to note because this was a consistent winner throughout the entire audit. And again, we can just move the hashtags and consider the new SEO guidelines. So moving on into the past year, I double checked on 2 years and it looks like these are the top winning photos of both 2 years and 1 year. So that's something to note. The top performing posts we have are the carousel. Again, posted on Tuesday, January 7th. Those last few days, we had a carousel on Tuesday, January 28th. So January seems to be a strong month for you, as well as the post on Monday, is it me or is it the breeze? I believe this is the only one that did not have paid behind it. So that's something that you definitely want to keep an eye on. And also just to note, on every slide here, you can see up close, these are the views on each post. So let's look a little bit deeper. Copywriting on this one is super relatable. It tells a story. It has a strong closing sentence. Change is near. Take it slowly, mama. I mean, I'm not even a mother and that moved me. So, and then you have the closing sentence. This is just a great example of what great copy looks like. I think that's something that you really got under your belt here. What I liked about this, it's relatable storytelling with a strong close. It's emotional, but it's easy to read, right? So if they have to scroll to read, that's when we want to break it up, right?
Okay.
Keeping that spacing in mind, but you kind of did that here because you have take it slowly, mama, space into there. So keeping that in mind, this is a great one to reference in the future. And then you have this one, again, we have super strong tags on it. So there was a lot of reach. You have a very simple, short and sweet caption, which I think you do a great job at having that diversity in terms of sometimes your captions are long and deep, sometimes they're just short, and both of them work. Again, looking at this one, we have, I thought this was really interesting because your caption was just a simple little question that really seemed to resonate with everybody. You have killer hashtags in there, which are the ones that you've been using. And then I would just say, thinking about how you can repurpose these top performers, whether or not turn them into reels, whether or not you put them on Facebook, whether or not you put your top performers on your website, because I think that's something that you could definitely do, is shift around some of the images to coincide with your top performers, because we know that these are the ones that get people to click. Now let's look at the paid ad side of things, and this is super interesting because we don't see that this one or this one had paid behind it.
It just something about those two pictures and maybe what I wrote or the hashtags or the tagging, I don't know, something about them. Instagram liked it, and I, for the first time actually, those two did something on its own in Instagram, which I'd never seen happen before. I've never had numbers like those.
So this slide, then, you definitely want to keep an eye on this slide and think about repurposing them and having them on your website, and then again how you can recreate them. And you can always repost things as well. Nobody notices. So yeah.
I wondered about that though, but when they're pinned at the top, surely they would notice because they would be right under.
Perhaps, but I just don't think people are that observant. Nobody notices your content as much as you do. If you feel like, oh, I don't want that to be the exact same, then let's shift how you're showing the content, turning it into a reel or experimenting with that, or maybe alternating the different photos that are in the carousel itself. Or just keeping this in mind when you're writing copy, because we know the copy is a factor, and when you're doing future shoots, if you know that they work. A very important factor is the time of year. All of these were in January, on a Monday and a Tuesday. So maybe that's something to know for upcoming years. January might be one of your very important months for your audience, and it makes sense because
people are inside.
People are inside, it's the new year, the holidays, they're feeling reflective and emotional. And who doesn't want, I see families doing Christmas photos all the time, right? So maybe January is a good time to run a special or promote yourself during that time, because your audience clearly is engaged during January.
Thank you, good tips.
And for the ads, I'm going to guess that you boosted I'm not guessing, actually, I saw you boosted all these posts So to explain for the viewers, originally this audit was done in the back end of Instagram, and then I moved into Meta and looked in Meta. And surprisingly, Ella, I thought Meta would have more and better data for us. They did not. They had essentially the same thing I was looking at in Instagram, just in a different view and a little bit more details. But actually, I found that you had more views recognized in the Instagram dashboard than you did in Meta. So that's something to be aware of, as I think the data might be a little bit more accurate in the Instagram analytics than it is in Meta, just because it was a very small amount, but I noticed you had more views in there. Because you boosted these posts, instead of creating them in the Meta interface, that is why we're going to see a little bit more limited data. So I think that's something you might be able to do in the future, is creating your ads rather than just boosting them, creating them in Meta, in the business manager, because you're going to get better targeting, better audience, better reach, and better data.
I didn't even know you could do that. So
Yeah, well, we can do a session if you like. I can show you how to create an ad in there. There are people who do that as a specialty, and it is quite complex, but I can at least show you how to create an ad, add some tracking to it, and so you can get a little bit more reach, better targeting, better insights, all that kind of stuff. Your winning ad for the past year, which is the Mother's Day giveaway, which makes complete sense to me. It has the copy's beautiful, easy to read. You have your branding on there. The photo's gorgeous. And then the copy that goes along with it, again, gorgeous. Super clear on what it's for, who it's for. Super clear instructions and directions, which not too many steps. This is super important, and I see this happen a lot where people add 7 steps to enter a giveaway. More than 3 or 4 is perfect. And you have, it just lays out well, right? Very clear, and it's also emotional, so it connects to people as well. Like, I see you, mamas. And then you have gorgeous photos. It's a reel. Instagram does tend to favor reels.
reels.
It does. It likes reels. It likes reels. That's why I was actually surprised to see that your posts and carousels are getting more traction. So maybe that's something to test going forward, is maybe reels don't work for you, because all the other top winners that we've seen so far have been posts and carousels. Whether or not that's because you post more posts and carousels.
Yeah, probably. I find making reels really frustrating. And maybe I haven't found the right platform to make them in, but they jar me.
There's something, it's like the more you make them, the easier it will get. But that's something to test. Is general rule of thumb, as much as Instagram is a photo platform, it's meant for videos now. They favor videos, but you are a photographer, so you can test that. But I think this Mother's Day post is just a great example of a giveaway for our viewers, especially, of the caption, copy, the branding, and the clarity and the simplicity of it. It really did well, and it made sense for a giveaway, and it worked for you. And we'll get into the data deeper. Caption win for the second one, emotional resonance, and here you have taking some action. Come as you are, let me capture the chaos. That's a beautiful line right there, and that would be a call to action. So I really like that, and I also think it's something to note. This was backed by paid, but we will go into a little bit difference, because all of your paid ads actually crushed it via organic, and then went a little bit farther with some paid.
That's why I chose them to be paid ads,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not very confident with paid ads. Just used images that I could see had done quite well to try and push them out further. I am only experimenting with paid ads. I don't know the full ins and outs of what's possible.
Well, that's the perfect way to start, if I'm honest. That is the best way to do it, is test your highest performing ones. Now that you're seeing the data and you've actually tested some of them, now you know, okay, brilliant. Instead of boosting them, we'll go create them in Meta, because it will separate the data for you, because I'm going to show you what happened because it was boosted. This one does not have too much more feedback, but I do think it's a really interesting one, because the caption is literally just Tayana 36 weeks, and that is so simple, and it's just something where you can experiment with those short and sweet. And I really like that variety within your captions. The captions are really hard for people to do, so the fact that you've got such variety of strong emotional connection versus short and sweet, keep that up. That's a great way to do it. The only feedback on this one is actually the pros was that you had the hashtags in the comments in this one.
Yes.
That's a great example. I do think the hashtags take a little bit away from the captions. So that's brilliant. We'll go a little bit deeper into this. Now, here's where the reach in a year versus the reach in the past 2 years. So you can see that the data is the same for the first two. For some reason, Thursday giveaway is not giving us any data, and I am not sure why. So I was going to pick your brain on that a little bit as well. But something to note is that you've come really far in the past year versus the past 2 years, because you were reaching under 1,000, under 500 on some of those posts.
Yeah.
There's the only issue is the missing data. But looking at your 28 days, you've got 21K views. 20 views and 5.4K reach. In the past 90 days, your engagement, meaning how much people interact with all of your content, has been 2.5% of your reach and 1.7% of views, which is spot on industry-wise. So just be proud of yourself. You are killing it organic right now. You are doing very, very well. I think this is a reflection of your content.
That's so funny because it feels like you're just chucking. Most of the time, it just feels like I'm chucking images out into.
Well, do you know what's ironic is sometimes the less you think about it, the better the content does.
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes, it's just best to not stress about it. Now, again, everywhere within this audit, I have inserted links that you can click through and see the content live. And then this is where all of the insights are pulled. This is where you can plan things out. So this is where that planner that I told you about is, you can see all of the best times to post in here.
Wow, that is gold dust.
Yes, and all of your insights are in here, and you have your audience, and we'll go into this a little bit more.
I mean, everyone should book you for one of these. Like, in my world, this is not something we know.
That we're all here for our specialties, right? I did set a goal for you for this week. So
what's my goal?
I set a goal that I wanted you to increase reach, and not by a specific percentage, but more in comparison to how you've been growing. It's just Meta have done a great job at updating the interface to really help people like yourself who aren't in marketing plan and reach goals. And they have great resources both within Meta and within the platform. And if you look in here, you can see all of these different types of tools. If you look in Instagram under insights, there are also tools in there that show you trending sounds, that give you content ideas, that show you what videos your audience are interacting with most. What you can do is go through those videos everyone's interacting with and use the sound.
Okay. I mean, that's fascinating because actually I think one of the things a lot of people in my industry really hate is how much they have to be on their phones. And this would allow us to come off our phones and do it, set it up on our laptops. And that's probably better for everybody's mental health.
100%. You never want to be doing everything on your mobile phone, not for your business. So essentially in the last year, when you're looking in your insights, these top 3 performers in the past year broken down by data. So now the difference in the data is in this. This is your organic reach that you had. This is what you spent and broken down. So organically, you had 7.5 thousand views on your Mother's Day giveaway. You had 4.7K reach. You had 111 likes and you had 37 saves. Likes and saves are good to look at.
Yeah.
And then same, you have family moments in the flowers. Tiana 36 weeks was a different type of content, so it doesn't give you views. So sometimes you'll see the KPIs vary, and that's just because of the type of content. Views are much more important for things like carousels and videos. So that's your organic traffic. And then you have your paid traffic. Again, unfortunately, the data was blocked on the Mother's Day giveaway. So we'll pick your brain later on why that might be that the data's it's got to be something about the way it was boosted, or I'm not sure. But again, if you run your ads in Meta, that should override that and you should get more data. But the duration of that ad was 2 days. Then for family moments in the flowers, that's how much you spent. You spent $31.98 of your 32 pounds. And you had an additional 3K reach for the family and flowers. You had 3.8K impressions. Ran for 4 days. What I want to highlight on this slide is your cost per visit. You are crushing it, girl. You are crushing it. The industry average for cost per visit is between 0.5p, so 0.5 pence and a pound. And you are getting a cost per visit at 0.27 pence, which is brilliant. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So just use this as your benchmark for the future is if you see an ad, you're running it and it's charging you 1.5 for a cost per visit, shut it down. You know what I mean? Whereas
Oh,
if
I see. So like as it's running, if it's not under zero point 0.5, stop it because it's not working.
it's not under a pound,
Okay.
after
Okay.
24 to 48 hours. But if you're seeing an ad that you are getting cost per visit, 150, £2, yeah, that means it's probably not working. As obviously it needs 24 hours probably to go out there. You just always want to keep an eye on the cost per visit. And I just wanted to say nice work because what you're doing right now is working to that
Oh,
point
okay.
where your messaging, your branding, it's clearly resonating because you're getting a lower cost per visit. So that's great to see. Now, let's look at the audience breakdown. This was pulled from Meta, and this is the lifetime. So your main audience, which is not surprising, is female age 35 to 44, with the second being 25 to 34. Something to note is that you do have a very small older audience, but they're there, and you have 37% of men as your audience. And I'm assuming these are people's partners, and I think that's something that you could just consider. I think the way you're speaking now, you want to speak to your main audience, and that's exactly who you are, speaking to the 63% of women. But those 37% of males, maybe consider them into some of the messaging. That can be indirectly, so you're speaking to the women and say, send this to your partner if you want them to, a gift, hint. Or you can speak directly to the males and say, hey, if you're not sure what to get your wife or your partner for a Christmas present this year, this is it.
Yeah, I guess Father's Day is coming up, so I'll do that.
Perfect. Again, they're not your main audience, but they're there. So if you can consider them once in a while, that's the least you can do. Now, this is the final and the best page. It's my favorite page. This is really essentially what you're going to do going forward. Let's get into it. Bio. We know we're going to apply the emotional copywriting. Highlights. You're going to add consistent cover photos. Collaborations, that's a massive opportunity for you because whether you're collaborating with photographers, brands, or influencers, I can tell you right now my reach goes up by 800% every time I collaborate because you're tagging them on the content, they're reposting it, it will increase your reach. So just think about that. If there's anybody that you would like to collaborate that you feel is in brand, it doesn't have to be brands, it doesn't have to be influencers, it's whoever you feel is right and fits with your brand. It can be however you want. You know enough about collaborations. I don't have to tell you too much. Trending sounds, which we discussed. Scheduling. I think scheduling and batching will become your best friend because you will get better insights rather than posting sporadically, which you can do sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. Scheduling it means you will sit down with a month calendar in front of you and you will schedule out all of your posts for Instagram, maybe even Facebook. And then that way you can sit and see your month ahead and be like, okay, that's actually a whole theme. And then you can then post on the fly if you find something super creative. But what it does is you schedule out a month, you set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it. Centralized data also, you will get better, more data on a scheduling platform. You will have your organized content strategy because you can see it in front of you and you can see how things are going out. You'll also have peak time.
Is this something that I can do in Meta, or do I need to use a different platform?
You can test this out in Meta, absolutely, because posting natively does get you more reach. I would recommend Buffer, if I'm honest, but we can play around with it and see which one works for you best. But I know that Buffer is affordable, it's interface friendly, and they will just have better data because Meta doesn't really provide, unless it's paid, if it's paid advertising. But there's certain things like I couldn't look at certain dates that I wanted to. And there's certain data that you just have to get after the 30 days. And once you hit that 30 days, you can't go back. Whereas Buffer will let you see whatever you want to see and it has all your data in there.
Shout out to Buffer.
Yeah, Buffer is great, and I think they're £5 a month or something. But again, you can click through there and look. But I'm happy to sit down with you and experiment with both, and we can figure out which one is the best one for you to do next.
Okay, great. All right, next one. What's the objective of each post?
Yeah, what's your objective of each post? I think that's something that's just thinking about going back to the mentioning your mission and the call to action is like anytime you post, think about what's the purpose of this post? Is the purpose just to emotionally connect with them? Is the purpose getting them to enter a giveaway? And just keeping that in mind because that will help you understand which CTAs you have to put on that. Customer journey, we talked about this, adding the link to book or contact both on your social and your website. That's something I noticed. Like there's only a contact, but I couldn't really find out where I could absolutely book. What if I get to your website and I don't even need to know about you? I'm ready to book. You want to give those people a place to do that, both on your social and your website. And then, of course, for the people who don't know you, giving them a clear path of where they can book. Create a copy sheet. This is super standard, but it is a life-saving copywriting trick that I came up with about 7 years ago, where create a Google sheet or a Word doc, whatever you use, and put your winning copy on there and any inspo. If you ever see copies that you like or you think of something, put it on that sheet. And what you'll do is you'll compiling pages and pages of copy. And say you're having a writer's block, you go to that sheet, you do Command F, and you search for a word that you think will go with that picture, and it will give you inspo because you've been collecting all of that copy sheet. Then you obviously have your top performer copy on there, so you can say, I know this did well, so I can reuse it again. Another thing you could do is surveying your audience, asking them what they want to see, asking them what their biggest challenges are, asking them what their biggest fears are, not so you can use it against them, but so you can tie it into your content, tie it into your captions, and give them more of what they want. Repurposing testimonials, which you have done on your highlights, but if you can work those in, maybe putting a testimonial on a carousel with the photos that went with the testimonial, thinking of how you can repurpose those. Same on your website. Can you turn them into a reel? Anything like that. Although you do have them on your highlights, which is a great start. Brand avatar. This coincides with the discussion we had about your brand and your logo. I think you should think about if your brand avatar is not you. And when I say brand avatar, I mean if your Nash photography was to come out of my screen off of Instagram and stand in front of me, who would I see and who would they be? And that is who you want to convey on Instagram. Whether or not it's your personal brand, whether it's Nash, that's who you're selling, that's completely fine. Or you can create a brand avatar, which is an idea of either a celebrity or a person. It can be an imaginary person. It's the idea of who are they, what are their values, what are they posting on Instagram, right? Like, because usually the brand avatar has similar values to your audience, because your audience is going to come there and they're going to relate to this brand avatar, to this woman. And then tying that into what they're coming for. What are they coming to your Instagram for? They're obviously coming there for inspiration and to be able to be understood as well as a mother, as someone who's about to give birth. Monthly themes and audience state of mind. That's something you can keep in mind. Thinking ahead, maybe for the upcoming 6 months to a year, being like, okay, well, we know January is our top performer. We know they're in the holiday period, so we're going to make sure all of our content during December and January is aligned with the state of mind of the audience, where they're at emotionally, and also promoting things that we know, hey, the new year's coming, get this special for your photography. It's the best way to get the year. Catch your family now while they're still young. All of those things. So if you can create any monthly themes when you're planning out that content and aligning it with the audience state of mind, that can give you a little bit more consistency. We already spoke about the meta ads versus the boosting posts. And the last thing I just want to leave with you is the SEO on the website. We talked about SEO on your Instagram because of the new hashtags, but something I noticed, I pulled up a couple competitors in the Kent and Margate area, and your website is visually more appealing. It's softer, it's more inviting, it's more emotionally resonating, but you're missing keywords on there. And that's something I noticed on a couple of the competitor websites is they have Kent, Margate, London, they have all of these keywords mixed in. So I would look at your hashtags that you have, maybe have a chat with ChatGPT and say, hey, what are the best SEO words that I should have on my website, and work those throughout the website, because that was the one thing. While I prefer your website and your branding, there's some SEO considerations that are
Okay, so should that just be words within my copy?
Yes.
Fine.
the number one thing I noticed was that the location wasn't included on the homepage. And that's
Right.
something that's very, very niche about your business and probably plays in your favor is that you're like Kent, Margate, London. Those are your areas. So those need to be listed somewhere because think about what your audience is searching for. I'm
Yeah.
searching for a maternity photographer in Kent. So we just need to make sure we're lining up some of those um, SEO words.
Yeah, amazing.
So,
Thank you for pointing that out.
and then of course, tracking your monthly KPIs. Now you have this, so you have the ability to have a North Star, have a benchmark on how things are working in the future. So that's Ella. Is there any questions or anything else that you need to know before we close things out?
No, I haven't. Any questions that I did have that I wrote down, you have actually covered. That was incredible. You've pointed out so many helpful points that I can work on. It's so amazing seeing what is working and what isn't working because, like I said earlier, it just feels like I'm chucking stuff out into the void and I don't know whether it's good or bad. And it's really amazing having this kind of direction. I can see this is going to be incredibly helpful to me going forwards.
I'm
So
so
thank you.
glad. I really enjoyed doing it for you. And before we wrap things up, obviously I'm going to send a copy of this to you for you to keep and take forward as your North Star. For anybody watching, where can they find you if they would like to have a photography shoot or a consultation?
Well, my Instagram is ellanash_photography and my website is ellanashphotography.com. During this chat, Grace has mentioned my Gaza prints, and I'm currently selling some photographs that I took of poppies. But they're painterly, they're beautiful, and 100% of the profits are going to charities that are helping support mothers and children in Gaza. Please go on my website and have a look at them.
It's an amazing initiative. That's something I love about Ella. She's always finding ways to give back to the causes she cares about. And to top that off as well, she is an incredible photographer. I've been following her for over a decade, and I'm one of her #1 fans for her work. So if you're looking for photography, get in touch ASAP before she is booked out for the summer. So that being said, anyone who liked this video, like below, subscribe, and all of the relevant links that Ella just mentioned will be in the description below. So Ella, thank you so much again for joining me for this audit.
No worries. And I just learned those were all call to actions.
There you go.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for teaching me so much. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks everyone for listening.